Nintendo, an update to the Switch 2. Now, we've always just assumed this was coming in 2024. That's just kind of the foregone conclusion, was that it was coming this year, because they've suggested it. But since those rumors started coming out, Nintendo's been very hush-hush on what exactly is happening. And then this article just dropped from Andy Robinson on VGC. A new report suggests that Nintendo's next console could arrive later than expected. That's according to Brazilian journalist Pedro Henrique Lutilipe. Maybe, I don't know, giving it my all. Who claims in a new OX Do Control video that he received information from 5 separate sources. According to the sources, they are working on games targeting Q1 of 2025 to launch alongside the console itself, which has internally slipped out of a previous 2024 target, which would make sense because Nintendo, even in their investor calls and stuff, has been very quiet on timelines and when they expect to do stuff. That could just be because they're waiting for it to be like an exciting announcement. It could be that it's actually slipped a little bit, and maybe instead of going holiday, they're going to release it in like a March window, which is what they did. I think the Switch originally was it was like March 2nd or something is when it launched, because it was like right after Horizon Zero Dawn, I think. Previously, VGC reported that Nintendo was targeting launch for its next console in late 2024 per development sources. This was later supported by other outlets, which is why everybody's kind of been going with that. 2 development sources VGC spoke to on Friday indicated that they were working on Switch 2 games planned for the release early next year, but could not confirm if that meant later than expected launch for the console itself. In other words, just because somebody's developing a game for Q1 of 2025 does not mean that the console is coming in 2025. It could mean that the console launches in November, December of this year, and they're just going to release games a few months after that. It's very reasonable. Although the company has yet to comment publicly, Nintendo Switch's successor was widely expected to launch this year. In its latest earnings meeting earlier this month, Nintendo president Shuntaro Furukawa again declined to comment on its plans for its next generation console. The exec instead insisted that the current Nintendo Switch iteration would be Nintendo's main business heading into 2024. The company's plan for the next fiscal year will be shared at its next earnings briefing in May. So they might announce more clearly in May what they're doing. It's unclear. Nintendo's next fiscal year will run until April of 25, so could include a console launch even if it has been delayed into calendar 2025. This is something that's important to understand about a lot of these companies, is that it's all about fiscal years. A lot of the executives bonus off of fiscal year performance, and that's important to understand, because like the one thing you can trust that these executives care about are their paychecks, right? And the way that the board of directors often compensate executives is by giving them bonuses if they perform well within a fiscal year. So it's like, okay, you will achieve this stock option payout, quote unquote, if we hit 5% revenue growth or profit growth, whatever the KPI would be for consideration. And then you'll get even more if you exceed that per percentage point, something like that. So the better they run the company, the better they do, the more they make. Pretty simple, just like you would expect most jobs to handle this. The better you do, the more money you make. In this case, though, how that is typically lined up is that all of a sudden executives care a lot about timelines and getting stuff out by the end of that fiscal year. So if an executive has bonuses lined up and payouts lined up according to fiscal year 2024 or 2025, that ends in say April of 2025, they have a strong incentive to get as much stuff out, released, and as many revenue streamlines as they can before the end of that period, so that they can bonus out maximally. And so it wouldn't shock me if in May, when they do this kind of meeting to outline their expectations for the next year, if we hear more details. It's also potentially possible that they they maybe leak or do a small announcement suggesting a Nintendo Switch 2 is coming or something in May, because it's gonna basically come out during the investor call anyways. So you might as well do like a fun announcement for fans and then discuss it with investors beyond that. But we'll see. Beyond this, they say, Dr. Serkan Toto, CEO of Tokyo-based game industry consultancy Kanton Games, recently predicted the new Nintendo console could launch at $400, $100 higher than the Switch's launch price. And there's a chance its games could adopt the $70 pricing of many PS5 and Xbox Series X and S titles. This would not shock me at all if they go to $70. Nintendo has always dominated the full price thing. Like, their games never go on sale. It'll be 5 years after they launch and they're still a full $60. So going to 70 would not shock me at all. And as for releasing at 400, there are already rumors it's not even going to have an OLED display, the next one, which would be a huge bummer if it costs more and is worse in terms of the display and some of the other features that they have. So it's just going to be interesting to see how they go about this. But as of right now, nobody really knows any details of the Switch 2 or whatever they end up calling it. Nobody knows if it's going to be like a dual display thing. You good? Or a just a basically a like updated version of the Switch. Nobody really knows. So it's going to be interesting to see what this looks like. But all eyes are on Nintendo, because this year is actually looking like it might be a little boring for a lot of big publishers and big developers. PlayStation doesn't have really anything. They just confirmed that at their earnings call just I think last week, where they said that, yeah, we don't have any big like first party major releases, nothing akin to God of War. There's no Ghost of Tsushima 2. There's nothing like that coming. They have some smaller projects launching, some published titles, but nothing beyond that. And that's a big oopsie for PlayStation, that they just don't have any big first party stuff coming this year. Xbox does have a handful of big titles releasing, of course, probably the biggest one being Indiana Jones. There's a lot of eyes on other developers like Ubisoft. Ubisoft has Assassin's Creed Red and Star Wars Outlaws coming. Two huge games that I'm sure are going to move tons and tons of units. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the discussion for like the top games of the year are towards the end of the year. I think it's probably right now, it's looking like we're going to have Final Fantasy in that contention. We're going to have Dragon's Dogma 2 in the running, but where the other spots get filled in, it's going to be really interesting. Oh yeah, sorry. And of course, quadruple A, Skull and Bones. Can't forget that. He took my thing.